Hi, it's Anne. Thanks for stopping by. I've been so excited to share this project with you today. This is a technique that I had done one time 3 or 4 years ago, and I completely forgot about it. And I was going through some old journals the other day, and I found an example of this technique, and it's a torn window technique. What it is I've taken a thin piece of book page, in this case, and a page from a dictionary, and I've torn a hole in it to reveal something really exciting behind it, and I've really grunged up the edges, and I just really wanted to make it look like it was just really grunged up, and a really special window into another world. And I thought we might have fun playing with this technique. So let me set this aside and let me show you what we're going to use. It's very simple to use, only using a thin book page and a magazine. I mean, you can use, as with most junk journal techniques, you can use almost anything. Here's a piece off of a calendar. Here's a piece of junk mail. I might turn to those later as well. But I decided that I would kind of focus on just using magazine pages, because magazine pages, they tend to have just really beautiful photography that we can really focus in on, because this technique, that torn window, really has us focus on one particular visual. And it just provides a nice contrast. Also, magazines have, lots of text that we can go through to use for, little headlines like this. So anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. The magazines I have on hand, and I get my magazines from thrift stores. This is a Birds and Blooms. That's a very well-known American magazine, and lots of wonderful avian photography and botanical photography as well. I pick these up at the thrift store whenever I see them, because they're handy to have in my stash. I also keep a few copies of Real Simple magazine around, because there's usually, lots of good graphics and things like that. In fact, this might be one that we might want to use in one of our projects here. So I'm going to actually pull this out. And I have a old, very old, like 12-year-old Portland Monthly magazine. Whenever I see those, I pick them up. I have some from my own subscription from about 10 years ago, just because the photos are so beautiful. So we're going to get started making our torn window. And then I'm going to show you how we can use that window to pick out the perfect thing to go behind that window, the surprise behind it. I like to use a kind of a piece of plastic to put behind my paper when I make the torn window. So, and you will see why in just a moment, because it's going to get wet. I'm going to make a nice size window here. I've done some before, because we're going to have to let this dry before we actually use it. But I just spray a little bit, just whatever but however big I think I might want my window to be. And these tend to be, if we're using them for tags, they tend to be tags on the larger size, although certainly we can make them smaller as well. So I'm just letting that water soak in a little bit. There's nothing special about this tool. I could use a chopstick. Here's a chopstick that I use for tearing paint, but I don't know, it's a little scraper or something like that. And I'm just going to let that water soak in, and then I'm just literally tearing this paper. I'm bringing the edges up a little bit, and kind of smashing them down around where I think I want the edge of my window to be. And this one I think I want to be fairly round. But it's nice to make a stack of these windows, and that's what I'm going to show you in a moment, because then as you're looking for something to put behind them, you have a variety of sizes to choose from. So this is going to feel very flimsy. That's why it's tearing easily. If you need a bigger tear, just go ahead, because you're flaps are going to be part of the decoration of the whole thing. And we don't need it to be symmetrical. In fact, we don't want it to be symmetrical. There we go. I think I'm going to call this one fairly done. You might be able to hear a little bit of football in the background. Again, 'tis the season here in the United States. That's maybe a little bit too... There we go. I think I want that just a little bit wider there. All right. And because we have this on a plastic surface, that is just fine. I'm going to set this aside to dry, and because we do want it to dry before we move on to the next step. Okay, I've ironed this, and that helped to dry it out and to flatten it out. It's not going to be completely flat, but it's perfectly fine to let them air dry, of course, but ironing does speed that up a little bit. Now I'm going to add some distressing, because we want this, again, looking like somebody has clawed their way through. And these torn edges really pick up the ink in an uneven way, which is exactly what we want. It's going to look nice and grungy. And just exactly what we're going for here. This window where the edges have been exposed to the elements and left to grunge and weather on their own and bring their own special beauty. So there is our torn window. Now, the fun part, of course, is seeing what we can put behind this. Let's go back to our birds magazine, because I have something else I'd like to try with my Cortland magazine. This bluebird on the cover could be almost perfect, just like it is. Shall we try that? Let's let a few other things audition. Here's a pure Alexia, but that's got that's in the way for this particular window. It could go nicer in a smaller window. Little squirrel, just has a little bit too much text in the way. What about one of these cardinals? I miss cardinals. We had those in the Midwest and in the East. Again, not quite the right shape. I've got too many things on my desk here. Oh, who am I kidding? I have the exact right amount of things on my desk here. There. I kind of like that bluebird. I like that little bit of pink. Now, the problem with a with a magazine that's filled with beautiful images is you're very likely to have something just as beautiful on the back side. So I think that guy might be sacrificed if I take this this one with the pink. But I think I'm going to have to do it. There are always more images, always more magazines to choose from. Now, in the practice tags that I've been doing, I've had to really kind of think about how do I attach this to the back of my window so that it shows through nicely. And I'm just going to grab a pen here, a gel pen. And what I'm going to do is to sort of roughly mark the perimeter of where I want to cut the image to go into this window. I'm going to be cutting it generously around the edge. We'll just kind of see how this works. Fortunately, the magazine paper is pretty thin, so I don't have to worry about adding, it adding a whole lot of bulk, because this is a multi-layered tag for certain. Yeah, that's going to be nice with no space. Now what I'm going to do is take my art glitter glue, and on the back side of my window, I'm just going to put a small bead of glue around the edge of that opening and a small bead of glue around the edge of my cut image. And that's going to help avoid any major gaps because both edges are going to be adhered to one another. I'm going to very carefully lay this here. And rub around the edge of the window opening as well as where I can kind of feel the edge of my image is here. And that's coming out nice. Now to mount it, I want, because you could do anything, with this. This could be a cover, this could be a pocket, but I'm thinking tags. So let's pull, I have some cardstock from a email flyer. Will that be wide enough? Let's see. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. I think that'll be fine. And we just need to know how tall do we want it to be? Is this going to give us enough headroom there? Maybe I'm going to pull it down just a little bit more. There. And maybe down to about there. That'll be good. Maybe it can go just a little bit longer. So I think I'm going to use my little cutter. This is really precise measurement you're getting here today, isn't it? Check just to see if that's a reasonable size. Yeah, 7.5. That's perfectly reasonable for a large size tag. Now if I can find my glue stick, I'm going to put the whole thing down, and I'm using glue stick to mount it because that has a little less moisture in it than the wet glue, and so that's going to mean it's going to be a little less ripply. I think I'm going to apply it to the back because that's going to help me get it a little more straight. I think I'm going to use those lines of text as a guide. There we go. Now, I do want writing space on the back, so let me pull out. I need something a little thicker than that. There we go. That's going to be fine. First, I'm going to pull the edges over. I always like to kind of cut that bulk away. This is going to be a heftier wrap around than I normally do, but that is really okay because I'm going to be covering over these edges anyway. And I could leave this as a journal card, but before we do any of that, we're going to decorate the rest of the front. There we go. And, oh, this was the piece I was going to use, wasn't it? This is a little piece of coffee dyed ledger paper. Actually, I like that side better. Why don't I ink that? That's just a little more interesting, and it's certainly easy to write on that, even though it has a little bit of printing. There we go. There's our writing space on the back, and there's our little bluebird. Now, we're going to want to continue to distress this, but while I'm letting that glue dry, I'm going to cut the trim around the edges here. I'll have this at the ready. But I think I want some sort of words there. So let me go back to the magazine. And what's some sort of text I could put on there? There's attract spring birds. That would be nice, but it's kind of small. I like that front porch there, but that might not make a whole lot of sense for a bluebird. So let's continue looking for some sort of text. Oh, bird's tails. I like that. Carefully tear this because I might want to use this little kestrel in a later project. See, this is the beauty of using magazines for these projects. They just almost always have some sort of really perfect text to go along with the images that you choose. There we go, and I have so much on my desk. Yeah, not a tidy project, this one. I kind of like that. I'm going to use my glue stick to put that down so I don't get ripply warping. And I think that would be a really nice little journal card in some sort of a nature journal. Something about your backyard. Yeah, I don't want something totally incongruous. That's why I didn't choose that front porch, because we don't tend to see bluebirds outside front porches. They're more field birds. And let me see if I can find my little card that I used. Well, I don't see that handy, so I'm going to cut this off this way, flip that little cut off corner around this way, and use that as a guide. There we go. Now we can get to town. Distressing the edges here. Yeah, I don't subscribe to any magazines these days. Most of the information, we get, magazines have sort of gone the way of the internet, haven't they? And I've been guilty of being one of those consumers that has not supported magazines that well over recent years. But when people are cleaning out their closets, I'm there at the thrift store to pick up a few. And again, I don't have a ton because I like to use up what I've got before I add to the stack. I've got a few little hole protectors here that I have inked with this vintage photo. And here is a little scrap of muslin. I don't often tie bows at the top of my tags, but let's just see if that works here. It gives a little more visual weight to the top. Also adds a little bit of bulk up there, which I may or may not want. But it looks kind of sweet, doesn't it? Let's even it up a little bit more. There we go. I'm not going to struggle with that too much. But I think that does look kind of sweet. There we go. So here is another one of our torn windows. Let's get going and do a couple more because we can do so. I have made several more because this is one I thought it would be fun to use little bits and pieces. And what did I do with that? I had a calendar piece, I thought, right here. Sorry about that. Well, now I don't know where that is, but what I can do is go back to this piece that had all of these interesting graphics. And one thing I liked about this page is I liked that that phrase, protect your heart. And, you know, I think these are a little bit too small. Let me go back to this one. And this one, that could show nicely through that. So we've got heart, we've got two exercise pieces there. Maybe it'll be better that way. Yeah, I might make, I don't know. I'm a little perplexed about what I can put in there. Maybe this isn't, maybe this this triple thing is not the best for me to use right now. Oh, here's the one that I was looking for. Here, okay. This is the back of a small calendar. I have so many calendars this year. And this is what I was thinking, was to have these little thumbnails from this calendar peek through and then just have maybe a belly band. So why don't we try that? All right, I will use this later, probably later today. And we're gonna do our distressing. I am using a blending brush this time because I think that's a little bit more gentle on these torn edges. I don't really want to rip them further. I could rip them a little bit more. But my goal is to let them be kind of the way they are now. I like the idea of, you know, kind of these three portholes. So we'll do this one maybe in a belly band, and then we're going to use a different kind of paper. to see how that works. All right. I think that these holes are smaller than all of these, so I'm going to just choose what I would like to use here with these little thumbnails. This little brilliant sunset. I like this rainbow beach here, but I do want to get some animals in. So let's go to the bears. So we've got a sunset with some mountains. We've got a bear, and let's get a little bit of architecture here. There we go. So we've been using magazines for our other pieces, but this was sitting on my craft desk, and I wanted to use that little calendar too. Sorry that I lost that for a moment. So we're just going around the edge of the back of the window, and probably should have done this one at a time rather than all three of them, but I think I'm already regretting my process decision, but let's just see how it works. I think I'm fairly safe because I know that these images are all going to fit. So I'm going to try to keep it above my surface, my desk surface, so that I don't smash the glue that I've already applied around these windows. Let's put Mr. Bear in the middle, or Ms. Bear. I know not the gender of this particular beast. We'll get this little lighthouse here, and there's still time to shift it a little bit if we need to. Don't these look cute? Oh, I love them. I love them. They just, look what we've ripped apart to find. But, but beyond this, rather dull academic kind of paper, there's beauty. There's beauty if we look ahead enough. What could we use for a belly band? Here's I don't want it this wide. So there's a piece of Tim Holtz packaging. And it looks like if we come down to about here, that'll be 8.5 inches. And that'll be nice for a belly band. Belly band being, of course, a strip of decorated paper that we attach to either edge of a journal page, and use it to slip stuff beneath. I'm going to try this being 8 inches, or 3 inches across, and then we'll put our little torn window scene down there, and we'll see if we want to decorate it further. Go by feel here for where I want to turn it over. Yeah, I think that's going to work. And come all the way to the edge here. I'm going to apply this strip down to my heavy paper base. First, so that I can snugly turn it over. Adhere all the way down to the edge. There we go. I'm going to put my glue down onto the cardstock piece again rather than the paper, because that paper is a little thin. And I want to make certain that it gets all the way to the edge. So we've applied a little bit of extra on there, but that's okay. It's going to dry. I think I am going to put it down on a book page though. It looks like I got it oriented a little bit to the right rather than to the left. I can cut it off here to even it up, but I really like having the paper wrapped around the edge. So I think I'm going to make use of this as a design space. Let me tidy up the top and bottom first. Here, I don't mind having it be a cut paper edge rather than a wraparound edge. There we go there. Oh, I love that. I just think that looks so cute, but I'm not done with it yet. I kind of like this wildlands. I like that word wildlands there, because that's not a word we use. We see wildlife a lot, but wildlands, we don't often see that word, and that's exactly what they are. Yeah, I kind of like that. I'm going to put that little bit of text along here, and it's going to look like that's why I left that extra space there, because this paper is a little bit thicker than our magazine pages. I'm going to feel okay using art glitter glue. There we go. Now I'm going to come up with one, because some of my little flaps around my windows, I made this earlier, are coming up a little bit, and I'm really okay with them, with the dimension that they bring, but I also don't want them to tear off. There we go. Should I curve off the corners? Maybe I'll do that. I like the simplicity of not over decorating this, because, you know, this is going to be on a journal page with something underneath it. and whatever it is underneath it is going to be showing either side. So I don't want to have too much distraction there. However, I could use wildlife, wildlands. Why not? We've got this lovely little word here. It's in the same font and the same style as the other words we're using. So we're just going to harvest this piece as much as we can. And what a nice little belly band this is going to be. Particularly if you're, journaling around about camping or hiking or something around. Yeah, that's nice. Do I have there's a little coffee dyed page. What a nice little belly band that will be. It'll probably be on something, looking a little more rustic than this. This is just a lightly dyed page. Do I have something? I guess I don't have anything quite there handy, but it would look really nice on a brown page too, wouldn't it? Like a grocery bag page. Anyway, so there is that one. Now I would like to use something a little bit different, and that would be using a map. I was experimenting with this as well, and here is another bird on a little piece of a map. How cute would this little pocket be? But I have prepped a piece that I really want to use, and it is a map of my beloved Portland, Oregon. You know that my husband and I and our daughter and her family live here in Portland, and we love Portland very much. And I have this little city map. They're, easily had here, but I did the same technique of spraying with the water and then tearing a hole in it to make this window. The map paper is a little bit thicker than dictionary page paper, and so I let it sit there just a little while. In fact, I'll show you kind of what that looks like. If I have another map here. Yeah, I do. Because you're going to want it. This is from something in Canada, maybe. I'm not certain. Yeah, it works exactly the same as the hole that you tear into a book page. You're just going to want to let it sit a little bit longer. So I'm going to set that aside and we'll come back to it. So again, this is one that I did earlier. And let's get to distressing with our brush. And I thought it would be fun just to use this little city map of Portland. And we'll take the distress out just a little bit more because these are more colorful, right? There we go. And what I want to use, and I thought of this right away when I was going through my magazines earlier today, this cute little graphic from this 12-year-old magazine of this little hiker, and he's looking across the vista that is Portland, because we have wonderful hiking even inside our city, and I thought he would be cute framed in there. So we're going to use that. I'm going to quickly though go back here because this is probably set enough that we can push this aside. I'm just going to use, just because I like to use different kinds of tools to show you how you can use almost anything. I'm just going to use the edge of my aluminum ruler this time. And just letting that water sit for just a few minutes on that map. And a map is not a... Oh, there's a talent. little town called Barneytown. I'd like to take my little grandson Barney to Barneytown. I've never heard of a municipality called Barneytown before. Although frankly, I think of our Portland as being Barneytown. There we go. So this could be a really nice little pocket too. I think I might just even leave that torn edge there. But I wanted you to see how letting that water sit for a little bit makes it very, very easy to tear a window. Let's go back to this and to see if I have. There we go, that's dry now. Yeah, so let's get our little hiker person out, and I'm just going to tear off. Or am I going to tear it off? Nope, I'm just going to cut this hiker out like this. Because I definitely don't want to throw away this part of the cover, because that is something I could use for another project. So, yeah. Oh, look. Oh, I just love that. I love that so much. I'm going to trim a little bit off this side just to take some of the bulk out. And then I'm going to use the process that we have already established. A little bit of art glitter glue close to the window edge, and a little bit of art glitter glue around the edge of our cutout, our image that's going to show through that torn window. Set that down and lower this carefully. Oh, that little hiker. Looking out over the city of Portland, just trying to decide where he's going to go next. And as long as I've got my art glitter glue down, I'll glue down a few of these little flaps. And I think we'll do a tag or a journal card this time. I have just a piece of a manila file folder. Is that going to be? Yeah, that'll be nice, because I think I'd like to keep this blue on here. So let's, this is thick enough, I think we'll be fine using the glue stick on this. Look for maps at your thrift stores too. I am always amazed at the things we can find in the paper goods aisle. You don't have to go out generally and buy new maps, and maps get outdated all the time, so people are always, ditching them for newer, more accurate versions, or they just don't use the printed maps anymore because everything's on Waze or the different apps. And didn't stick very well there, so I'll come in with my next stronger glue. Yes, in terms of glue strength, that your glue stick is the, I hate to call it weakest, because that sounds like I'm minimizing it, but it is. You use that in situations where you don't need super strength. Does that sound kinder? For very thin paper. For slightly thicker paper, or something where you need a little more security, art glitter glue, the label has worn off on that, but that's the glue that I use here. I buy the little, I buy it in bigger bottles. Again, it's called art glitter glue. There is no glitter in it. Apparently at one time the glue was used primarily for affixing glitter, and it's just the name of the product. But that little metal nozzle I buy you know, I bought one in my life. It's that one, but I purchased that separately so that I can be a little more precise in my glue application. So that's one step up. And then the third step up, if you want to glue like a piece of metal or brad or something down some fabric, is you use 3-in-1. It also comes under the names Fabrifix or Fabri-Tac. It's by the Beacon Company, and you can see it is a pricey glue on sale, $7.43. I use that sparingly, but I do use it. All right, there's our little Portland hiker, and he doesn't need any other words. He's just there. He or they are just there surveying the beauty that is our fair city. So any magazine is going to give you all kinds of ideas of things, you know, that you can put in this torn window. There's just an interesting dimension there because it's clear that the image is behind. It's not something you've pasted on top. You know, of your main paper. It's, you know, it's hidden behind. You've clawed your way through to see something beautiful. So I hope you know, what magazines, you know, do you have around? Pick up anything. Pick up any kind of magazine. I do think I'm going to go ahead and somehow use these these graphics for you know, protecting your heart, because I think that they would look really nice. But, you know, you get the idea. I'm not going to have to keep you longer doing that. But here's kind of what we did today. And what did I do with our belly band? I've gone to so many different projects that the belly band seems to have disappeared. But anyway, it remains in our hearts, doesn't it? Enjoy using this torn window technique, guys. And have fun with it. Thanks so much for joining me. See you soon.